Welcome to episode of 121 of Dimes on Duval. This is Mike Yashi, and with me is Skylar Chase. Keith was unavailable today. Skylar, what's going on, man?
Not much. Just went to Pop Symphony this weekend. Just getting those holiday festivities started.
Uh,
Excited for playoffs and stuff.
oh yeah, how did that go? How was it? Was it fun?
Yeah, it's good. Drinks are costly. It's $15 for a drink, but it was you gotta kind of drink while you're sitting in there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, how long was it? A few hours?
It was a couple hours. Yeah, start at 7:30. We got out at 9:30. And then we went to the Gervin lights after that, and those are great. I don't know if you've been there, but they
I
look
have
good.
not, but I plan on going soon. So
Definitely do.
what's nice is that it gets dark a lot earlier now, so it's definitely time to go. Like it's not too late, you can go. So that's a good thing about being on this side of daylight savings time in the winter. So,
Yeah.
but enough chit chat. Let's get into it. Let's talk Jags. Jags won yesterday. Yesterday. We're recording on a Monday. There's a little new thing for us. We're gonna start recording on Mondays, I think, going forward. Until at least the season's over with, then we can figure out what's going on afterwards. But Jaguars win 10-6 against the hated Tennessee Titans. It was honestly an ugly game, a game that I could have gone my whole life without watching, but gotta
Well,
watch it because
how many Jaguars games have been pretty this year? We just
very true, but this game was two pitiful offenses, two pitiful teams. The so-called, someone called them the ugly stepchildren in the division because the division is garbage and we are the two worst teams in the NFL. So it was definitely a ugly game, but the Jaguars got the only touchdown of the game, and they beat the division rival Tennessee Titans by a score again as of 10-6. They currently improved to 3-10 and currently hold the number 5 spot in the NFL draft. We didn't record last week. We just could not work it out last week due to unavailability for all of us. It was right after Thanksgiving break. I know we agreed not to record Thanksgiving week. So, just to touch on last week's game, as we all know, we lost 23-20 to the Texans behind a cheap shot on Trevor Lawrence. We're not going to touch that game again. We're just mentioning that. We didn't record. Apologies, because we would have gone off and we probably would have been very furious that week. So, it is what it is. But it's a victory Monday. Skylar, what did you think of the game yesterday? Did you watch the whole game? Did you watch part of it? Because I honestly wanted to stop watching it multiple times. I literally put on Red Zone a few times during the game because I'm like, if we get a first down, I'll watch the game. If we don't, put on Red Zone. So I don't know how you watched the game, but let me know your thoughts on the ball game that happened yesterday.
yeah, no, I like to torture myself, so I don't turn away for a moment. I went to my dad's house and he tried to change it to the Vikings and Falcons game. I was like, I need to see what happens in this game. And some Mac Jones magic with Brian Thomas. Brian Thomas is my favorite Jaguar right now. No question about it.
It's hard to
Dude,
pick someone other than him right now.
yeah, I mean, Tank Bigsby's making a run for this just this season at least. Yeah, he's got ways to go from a rough rookie year. But yeah, no, Brian Thomas made some great plays. It was good. It looked like Tennessee, wanted to have Calvin Ridley involved in the game plan just to kind of get back at us. And in the end, it bit them in the butt, kind of how it bit us in the butt a lot last season, relying on Calvin Ridley. So um, in the end, it was great. We had one touchdown the whole game, and that basically was the the winning result was like because of that touchdown. So I think Titans coach took pride in the special teams because Jaguars never started like within the 30 or so. But
Yeah, I saw that
yeah,
those comments by head coach Brian Callahan. Definitely was praising his defense and special teams, but did not want to comment on the offense, and that's kind of damning of the offense in Tennessee. But
yeah. Well, we got really lucky with that one fourth down play where you know Will just threw it to the covered tight end instead of Okonkwo. You know, right there.
Will Levis sucks, so
Yeah,
it's not surprising for Mayo Boy over there. But
yeah.
just a quick note on that game: the Jaguars did win in Nashville. Now, only team they were one of two teams to not have won a road game this year. Now they have done that, so now there's only one team left, and that is the Chicago Bears. They have not won a road game yet this year, and I'm not sure of their schedule. I don't care for the schedule. I don't care for the Bears, but I think it's kind of funny. But
You know what's interesting is the game they beat us in was in
in
London.
London, it was a home game for them though, not a
Yeah,
road game.
London.
So,
That's interesting.
but watching the game, I am like now all the people that wanted Mac Jones to start, whoever those fans were, saw how bad he is. He had 31 attempts and he completed 23, great percentage, 74%, but to me they were all like dump offs, dump offs, dump offs. Like he's not gonna push the ball downfield.
Yeah,
So he had two picks, extending a ugly stat that I need to pull up real quick. Per ESPN research, this is from Mike DeRocco on Twitter. Mac Jones has now thrown an interception in 7 consecutive games in which he was starting quarterback. That is currently the longest active streak in the NFL. Mac Jones does not look good. The offense looked pitiful. It just was mind-blowing that it took a whole half to get Brian Thomas the ball. I don't know why it took so long to get him the ball. He is your best player on offense. He is your best player on the team, arguably. And I think he needs to get the ball more. He is our number one receiver. And if you want the Jaguars to win, I don't know why they don't feed him the ball. Give him 10 targets, 15 targets, whatever it is, because no one else on that team can catch a ball. Evan Ingram's good, but I don't think you can focus on him. You need to give Brian Thomas the ball. He's an X factor. He can open it up for other guys, in my opinion. Open up for Evan Ingram, open up for Parker Washington, open it up for um, even Brenton Strange, Parker Washington, like these guys need to get help from Brian Thomas. He got 12 targets last night, or yesterday afternoon. He caught 8 of them, but I don't know why it took so long to get him the ball. Like, find a way to get him the ball, and good things will happen.
yeah. It was kind of like it. It's been like that all year, where they just I don't know. They try to create a game plan that doesn't just force feed one person. They like last year they did a lot where they focused a lot on Calvin and left Christian Kirk out, and then this year they decided to kind of spread the ball out a little bit more. Evan Ingram doesn't get as many targets as he should, um, and Brian Thomas on top of that too. But that's where it's like so confusing. Um, to where in the second half it was refreshing to see how often they did target Brian Thomas, especially I think there's on that scoring drive, he had 3 or 4 straight uh, targets from Mac, and he had some big plays. That breakdown, the scramble play where Mac just flicked it up to him, and for some reason Arjun Key was the guy in coverage. Um, that was the biggest play, obviously. So shows how smart he is. He's a superstar in the making. Um, I don't have the stats pulled up. I have to send them to the group chat, but only like Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, and a few other guys have like more 70-yard games than he does this year. Or even, I can't remember his stat. I'll have to pull that up. I shouldn't even brought
I
it up,
did
but
see that stat. It is, I believe, just Justin Jefferson, who is the only one with 70 plus yards receiving this year, or 70 yards. Yeah, 70-yard receiving plays.
games like
Yeah.
7 game, like Brian Thomas has 7 games of 75 yards or something like that.
Yep. And only Justin Jefferson does have more. I did see that stat yesterday. So he definitely, I'm going to pull up the exact stat while we're
Yeah,
talking about it,
yeah,
but he's definitely a receiver one, and I do believe that he is but like I said, best player on the team. So yeah, Justin Jefferson is the only receiver with more 75 plus receiving yard games this season than Brian Thomas. Brian Thomas has 13 games? Yeah, 13 games. So over half. So get him the ball, it'll be good. It leads to good things usually. So I was impressed with the defense. Granted, it is a garbage offense that they played, but I wasn't very happy with the first half in terms of how often Tennessee was just running the ball, and they just ran the ball, and they got their one whole drive was all runs, I'm pretty sure, the first drive, first two
yeah.
drives.
It was like the first 8 plays were runs, and then I think they decided to pass it once, and
Which
that's
I
where
don't know
you know.
why they went away from that idea, because if they ran the ball down our throats, we would have lost. I guarantee you, because we don't have a good run defense. We
Could
don't.
you imagine if they had Derrick Henry? Wow.
And thank God he's in Baltimore, because I
Yeah.
am so sick of that. I was so sick of that man running all over us.
Yeah. Not much change, I guess, in our run defense.
So, but Jaguars got the win. They are now 3-10. They play the New York Jets next week at home.
Got throwbacks again.
Yes, it is a throwback game. I did see the commercial they advertised for that game again. Um, do you think we beat the Jets? The Jets are a dumpster fire right now. They are also 3-10. It's the rest of the season for the Jaguars is pretty pitiful in terms of opponent strength of wins. The week after that, the Raiders, 2 wins, Titans again, and then the Colts to end the year. So, do you think that we beat the Jets this upcoming week, or do you think we lose? Do you think Rodgers and company get right? Like, are we? What do you
I mean,
think of this game?
yeah, before yesterday, like before Sunday, I would have said I think we would have beat the Jets. But seeing them score like over 30 points, even though they lost, it's I don't think we're not going to be able to score over 20.
We won't score more than 10. I don't think we're going to score more than 10 against with Mac Jones at quarterback,
Yeah,
personally.
so if our defense doesn't, contain old man Rodgers, uh, we're gonna lose. But yeah, we still got a couple winnable games coming down the stretch. I mean, with Trevor being knocked out, I don't think we expected many more wins. But I think if Trevor were still healthy in the stretch, it would be a more competitive game. But we can't look at that anymore. Uh, so I do think we lose this game. Um, but I think we'll get a couple more with those games you listed. We still, like you said, we still have Tennessee and Indianapolis down this stretch as well. But no to this week.
Yeah, I think Jaguars do lose. I don't think they're going to beat the Jets. Jets are currently 3-point favorites according to Vegas, and the over-under is set for 40.5 points, which is a gross number to look at because that means not many points are going to be scored. They're implying 21 to 18, 21, yeah, 21.8 to 18.8. So that's what they're implying for the score. Obviously, it's about that range. So they're thinking Jags maybe score one touchdown and a couple field goals. So I can see that happening as well. So. I think enough of the Jaguars. I know they won, but this season's all about, honestly, just hopefully moving on from current leadership and Doug Peterson and Trent Baalke. We'll see if that happens. But it's going to be a long season. It's going to be a long off season too. So we'll see. Switching levels of sports. Currently, this video will not be posted online, but my current background is the Pop-Tarts box.
It's making me hungry.
I almost brought in Pop-Tarts to eat during the episode. Like if Keith was hosting and alternate was, I was gonna eat while like recording, so like make it seem like I'm obviously eating Pop-Tarts, but Keith couldn't do it, so I'm like, you know what, let me just host, just have the backgrounds Pop-Tarts. Great. The reason why I'm putting Pop-Tarts on there is Miami University. University of Miami, whatever the hell your name is. You guys select to go to the Pop-Tarts Bowl. You, the Miami program, was in a position to go to the ACC championship 2 weeks ago. We didn't record last week, so I would have went the hell off on Miami. But this is my time, and I'm the host, so I can do whatever the hell I want. Miami had a chance to beat Syracuse to go to the ACC championship and compete for an ACC title for the first time. Or no, I'm sorry, to win their first ACC title. They choked. They lose to Syracuse, and because of that, Clemson gets in the ACC championship game. Because of that loss, Miami gets booted from the college football playoff. And now they got selected to go into the Pop-Tarts Bowl. So all the hype around Miami this year. Oh, they got Cam Ward, they got Restrepo coming back, Mario Cristobal's building a program there, all that good stuff, right? This is the best team, arguably, for Miami in 2 decades for this program. Their arch rival, Florida State, as we've noted multiple weeks now, has their worst team ever. And they didn't play Clemson at all this year. So you would think their road to the ACC championship is a smooth trip. And yet they choked on some oranges. And yet now they're playing in the Pop-Tart Bowl. They missed the ACC championship. They are forever a poverty program. I don't care what anyone says. Yes, Florida State sucked, but it was sweet to see that Miami did not make the ACC championship. That program is full of scum, and I hope they never make it to the ACC championship game. They are trash, and they will forever be trash.
Do you think they were snubbed out of the playoffs like FSU?
No. And by the way, there's people are thinking that ACC
Yeah,
got redemption for last year for FSU missing the playoff. I don't want to hear it. Clemson, SMU deserve to get in. I don't care. Alabama does not. Miss me with that crap. Which we'll talk about the playoff here in a second. But
yeah.
Miss me with that. Clemson, and if they won, they deserved it. SMU deserved it too. They only had one loss. So,
I think
but
I just a question: who do you think's a bigger disappointment this year, Miami or Ole Miss?
Miami, easy.
My, yeah, I mean,
SEC is a little different. And Miami is an easier conference, and they couldn't even make their conference championship game.
yeah. Well, I mean, Ole Miss was supposed to be a national championship contender. Well, like
So
from
was so was Miami.
yeah, just because of that schedule.
Exactly. And they choked.
But
And so I hope they enjoy choking on Pop-Tarts in a few weeks. Stupid program.
what do you think the most popular Pop Tart on that team is? Probably unfrosted strawberry.
They are people that love unfrosted Pop-Tarts. Stupid losers. Sucks to be you, bitches. Anyways, now going off my rant from Miami,
So who
Keith.
is in the playoffs?
Hang on. So Keith wanted
Uh,
to just take a note real quick on Florida State. I mean, I get why he's saying this, but whatever, we stunk. But he said Florida State played 12 games and went 2-10 this season. 11 of the teams we played this year are playing in bowl games. So three of the teams we played are in the playoffs, and a fourth barely missing the playoffs. I'm assuming he's talking about Miami there. Five of the teams we played finished in the top 25. He's not saying that to justify the bad play, but just as a note, the teams that we played were not easy, but were actually very difficult. So, but that's besides the point. Florida
I'm
also
surprised.
played some playoff teams, and we'll go over that in a second. But Skylar, you saw the playoff bracket. I think you sent it in the
Yeah,
group, and you sent your predictions, and I guess we'll definitely record next week. We should be able to. So the playoff will be starting, I believe, in a few weeks. Let me double
yeah. The
check.
first week's the 21st. It's round one.
Okay, so December 21st. So not this upcoming Saturday.
Yeah, next week.
Next Saturday. Next Saturday. No, I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Next January
Oh,
tw December 20th is the first game. So
well,
next
yeah,
Friday.
that's Friday that weekend.
Yeah, that weekend. So that'll be the first games. So the bracket's out, and we all texted. Or actually, we should do this in our group. But I know you sent the screenshot of your picks, and I know we'll do it for Keith's as well, in our group. But you picked so the matchup real quick. Let me go through the bracket and then we'll pick matchups. Number one, Oregon after beating Penn State in the Big Ten title game, which they deserve. They're the only undefeated team in FBS. They deserve number one seed. No doubt, no debate in my mind. Number two, Georgia. They beat Texas in the SEC championship on the play of a backup quarterback and also hurt Carson Beck. We'll see if Carson Beck plays in the playoffs. Number three seed, Boise State, who had one loss only to Oregon this year, ran through the Mid Mountain West and won their conference. They deserve a playoff spot. Number four, Arizona State. They won the Big 12. They're the highest ranked team, or one of the higher ranked conference champions. They deserve a bye. I like Arizona State a lot. And the ACC champion, as mentioned, Clemson. They won it on a last second field goal behind a 55-yard field goal. So they are the 12th seed, Clemson, to wrap it up. But in between, Texas is five, Penn State's six, Notre Dame seven, Ohio State eight, Tennessee's nine, Indiana's 10, and SMU's 11. And as mentioned, Clemson is the 12th seed. So, Skylar, let's go game by game. Who do you think wins this game? Clemson or Texas? Let's go.
Uh,
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Let's go with the first game that starts off. Indiana, Notre Dame. That's the first game of the playoff bracket.
yeah, my bracket, I went with Indiana as the winner of that game.
See, this is where I disagree with you. I think Notre Dame will win. I think Notre Dame is this year. I think this might be their year. They actually might go far. I think Indiana is a little early. They got lucky with a schedule. They played no one. Notre Dame's actually played some teams. Granted, they did lose to Northern Illinois. I understand that.
So that
But
doesn't affect your thought process about Notre Dame as them losing to NIU.
no, doesn't affect it. I think they've rebounded well from that game. And we all know Notre Dame's due for one of those bad losses every year. They're always due for that.
The way I look at what Indiana's lone loss is to Ohio State, right?
Hmm.
So the way I look at it is like you said, they may be a year early, but I think that game they obviously can use that moment to prepare. The way the playoffs are set up, I think Ohio State's a much tougher opponent than Notre Dame. The conditions were much different. I don't know. It might still snow in Notre Dame, so it could be similar.
So
Um,
what's nice for Indiana, they're both in the same state. South
yep.
Bend is in the Indiana, so they are used to that weather. So Indiana's not going to be impacted by the weather. Like I think some teams may be impacted here in a little bit, but because the game is in South Bend, which I
Yep.
think everyone knows, the first round of the games are in the home sites of the college teams.
Do you
So
like that aspect of the playoffs?
I do. I just think this, I think the bracket needs to be adjusted. I don't personally think that the top four conference champions should get a seed, a bye, I'm sorry. I think it should be the top four best teams, regardless of conference. That's
Interesting.
that's something I believe. Maybe they'll change it in a few years, who knows? Actually, they will be changing it in 2 years. They'll probably expand to 16 if we're being real. But that's the point.
I kind of like the format like that because I think it just emphasizes that you have to win your conference. Like
I think that's why I think it does give a greater emphasis on winning the conference. I do understand that.
so, like that's where had Penn State beat Oregon, even though they probably wouldn't be, you know, maybe a higher seed than Arizona State in some people's eyes. Uh, that's seeding, obviously, but I do think it is cool with that conference stuff, and it's interesting how Clemson didn't get a home game. I still think, even though they're lower seed, I think they should still host as a conference champion, even if they don't get a bye. I think that'd be a cool feature, just because you
But
know
yeah,
reward.
but then again, they also want to reward the best teams in the country with a home game. So Clemson wasn't really the best team in the country. So that's why I can see there's multiple arguments for whatever different type of bracket you want, but it's gonna be interesting over the next few years what they're gonna do. They're gonna change, I'm sure they will. TV money
Yeah,
always changes things. So you mentioned Penn State. Penn State plays SMU. That is the next game up, Saturday, December 21st at 12 p.m. Who you got?
I like SMU, but I picked Penn State. I think Penn State will win this, although I don't really trust their coach. But this is still, even though it's a bigger game, it's not an Ohio State or a top Michigan type of game, or even Oregon in the Big Ten championship, which Penn State competed pretty well. Just based on score, I didn't quite watch the game, but the fact that it was a close game leads me to believe that Penn State should be able to beat SMU.
Yep, I'm with you on that. I think Penn State does win, and I think they blow out SMU, actually. I think they just take care of business. Next matchup to discuss is the battle between Texas and Clemson in Austin, Texas, as well. They'll be playing that game at 4 p.m. on that Saturday. Who you got?
I think Texas will win that. I mean, it's in Texas, obviously. That's where, had it been in Clemson, I think that would be an interesting switch. Like Texas probably still wins because they are the better team, even if it was in Death Valley. But um, yeah, Texas is going to probably win easily just because it's in Texas. Um,
Yep. Yep, I
so
do agree with you. I think Texas does win, and you say easily they are 10.5 point favorites in that game. So they are heavily favored in that game. So I think Texas does win. I think it'll be closer than people think, but we'll see. The final game in the first round is the Tennessee Volunteers going to Columbus, Ohio to play the Ohio State Buckeyes. So that's where I think the weather could be a factor. Tennessee, yes, it gets cold and whatnot, but Ohio State, I think, is going in Columbus is a little different level of cold in December than it would be in Knoxville, Tennessee. So I personally, I'm going to give you my pick. I think Ohio State wins that game. I think they take care of business against Tennessee. Curious what your thoughts are.
I think that Tennessee wins this game because in my eyes, Ohio State didn't really play anyone, and when they did play people, well, they only played Oregon and Penn State. Uh, I still think they have like almost like a big brother vibe on Penn State, so that's how they won that one. And it goes back to James Franklin confidence issues with that. But besides that point, or Ohio State lost to Michigan, and that kind of just made me not feel any confidence in them. I do think Tennessee should be hosting this game instead of Ohio State, but I do think Tennessee will win this game.
Curious why you think Tennessee should host it.
Well, I think I just split the 8 and the 9 seeds. I think Tennessee is a better team than Ohio State
That's
just
fair.
because
Okay. If
of
you think they're
squad.
better, then that's fair. So you got Texas, just to recap real quick.
Yep.
Skylar's got Texas against Arizona State, Tennessee against Oregon, Penn State against Boise State, and Indiana versus Georgia. I've got Notre Dame against Georgia, Penn State against Boise State, Ohio State against Oregon, and Texas versus Arizona State. Go ahead and pick the Texas and Arizona State, Skylar.
I'm riding with Arizona State. I think with that extra week of preparation is huge for that team. I'm a big Cam Scatabo fan. And Sam Levitt's a great quarterback too. I got family out in Phoenix, so we're all Sparky fans and we're forks up. So
Yep, I think the dream ends this week. That week, I think Texas does win. I think they're the better team. No harm for Arizona State, successful season, but I just think Texas is the better built team.
have you seen Cam Scatabo play?
Yes, I have. He's
They got
good.
to stop him. These last two games, he's had over 130 yards before halftime.
No, he's good. He's good. Now he's good. He's not as good as this running back. Ashton Genty, Boise
Yeah,
State plays Penn State. This is the night before. This is
Jacksonville
on New
native.
Year's Eve. So Boise State plays Penn State at home for both of us. Who you got? Penn State the Lions or Boise State Broncos?
Yeah, I think this is going to be a Penn State win, just because Boise State's going to be on the big stage. We've seen them win on the big stage before, but that was back in 2007 and the Fiesta Bowl. And there's probably some other times later on, but
So this game is actually in the Fiesta Bowl. It is in Arizona, so I can
just a little.
see the
Do,
home field possibly could be a factor.
do you
Like
think
home
they
field.
do a Statue of Liberty tribute play at one point in the game?
No,
No,
no, I don't think
but
so. Maybe,
I
but
do think
it
Penn State wins this one.
You think Penn State? I actually do agree with you. I think Penn State does win. I think they advance to the semifinals. Next up, we have Georgia. Wait, I'm sorry. No, we're gonna go with the for you, Tennessee against
Oregon.
Oregon. Who you got?
This one's I think again be a really good game. Um, but I do think Oregon is the better team. I got them moving on.
I got Oregon against Ohio State in a Big Ten rematch. I do believe Oregon still beats Ohio State, and then Ryan Day does get fired after this game. I think Oregon does win. I think they're the better team. I just like Dylan Gabriel more than Will Howard. That's simply
So,
it.
why do you think losing to Oregon in the playoffs is what makes Ryan Day lose versus
Because
just
he
like
can't win the big game. He's literally never he lost to Michigan as a three touchdown dog favorite, I'm sorry, a few weeks ago. He didn't even make the Big Ten title game. And those are two goals for Ohio State. And to lose to Oregon in your second chance, I think he's on the hot seat.
yeah, I felt like he should have been lost after Michigan, but I guess with them making the playoffs, it probably extended his job had they gone to
Yeah,
a
they
traditional bowl
wouldn't
game.
I don't think they'd fire him that quickly. I think they're gonna give him this playoff, see if he beats Oregon, then maybe they'll give him a shot. But I think he's gotta win
Yeah.
the national championship to save his job. But
Had Miami won and made it to the playoffs, I feel like Ohio State would have been out, but that's a
yeah,
different
well, that's a pipe dream for Miami fans. So you've
time.
got Indiana against Georgia. Who you got in that game in I believe it's the Sugar Bowl in Louisiana.
Sugar Daddy Bowl. Carson Beck obviously is a big question mark. He's going to have a week to heal. But even without Carson Beck, I do think Georgia will beat Indiana in this game. It's in Atlanta, so crowd's
So
going to be rough.
I actually think so. From what I've read, I don't think Carson Beck is going to play. From what I've read, but we'll see. It's obviously still early. It's still 2 weeks before the game, 3 weeks before they play. So I do think Georgia. I've got Georgia against Notre Dame. I think Georgia does pull it out, but it would not surprise me if Notre Dame beats Georgia because of the Carson Beck injury. So your final four is currently set up as, let me double check. Your final
Just
four is Arizona State against Oregon, Penn State against Georgia.
and then just I did say Atlanta. I forgot Sugar Bowl's in Louisiana. I
Yep.
was thinking Chick-fil-A Bowl or
Yeah, the Peach
whatever.
Bowl. Yep. So you've got Arizona State against Oregon, who you got in a battle of former Pac-12 teams.
That is interesting. Two Pac-12 teams representing two different conferences. But I think this is where Oregon will win. Uh, had Oregon and Arizona State remained in the Pac-12, obviously they probably would have finished in that order within the conference too. So Oregon, I have beating
Yep,
Arizona State.
I have Oregon against Texas, and I do believe Oregon does beat Texas in that matchup. I think this is the year for Oregon, and it's a sneak peek to my championship pick. I think Oregon wins it all. But I do think Oregon does beat Texas in my matchup. And finally, in our last matchup, we both have Penn State versus Georgia. Who you got in that matchup?
Just to prevent a all Big Ten championship, I went with Georgia. Um, Obviously, again, Carson Beck, question mark, but just I don't have confidence in James Franklin over big big games over big teams. Like I could see him moving on over Boise State and I can't remember SMU in the first round. Yeah, but Georgia I think is an opponent that probably puts a little too much fear into James Franklin.
So if Georgia does beat Notre Dame, which I think they will, I think Georgia does make it to the national championship. I think they do beat Penn State. Now, if Notre Dame does beat Georgia in that second round, I think Notre Dame will be in the national championship. I think the winner of Notre Dame, Georgia will be in the national championship. So, with that, I'm going with Georgia in this game, and we both ironically have an Oregon Georgia matchup in the championship, and I think we're both on the same page. I think from what we're talking, I think Oregon wins it all.
Yep, yep.
Yeah.
I do believe
We both have Oregon winning it all. Maybe Keith will have something different. We can discuss it next week if Keith's able to join.
yep,
Um,
Phil Knight can die happy now.
yeah, exactly. So they're definitely trying to get him a championship before he croaks. So, real quick before we go any further, I'm gonna go ahead and mention an ad read for Nerdy Nuts. So everyone, if you don't mind, if you want to go to nerdynuts.com, use the code DIMES10 to get 10% off your order. They are currently doing a advertisement for Christmas. They are calling it Merry Smunchmas, where you get free shipping on orders of $40 or more within the United States. They have different flavors such as Jack's Frosty Peanut Butter Treat, Sugar Plum Forest Cake Peanut Butter Treat. They have Blitzen's Crispy Cookie. They have Chocolate Chip Banana Bread. They have a bunch of other flavors, but they definitely have some Christmas themed flavors, which look very good. Just for an example, like I'm gonna pull up the Jack's Frosty Peanut Butter Treat. It's a take on raspberry white chocolate hot cocoa. Sweet white
Mm,
chocolate hot cocoa peanut butter is layered on white chocolate sauce, topped with raspberry frosting colored blue and dehydrated marshmallow bits. So it definitely is something that looks good and it sounds good to me. I
Yeah,
have
I
to get,
do it. I wish they would just send us that stuff for free. But we gotta support them. It
we
sounds
got to
good.
support them and also supports us in a sense. But
Yeah.
definitely, I recommend everyone go on nerdynuts.com, get a little stocking stuffer, and remember use the code DIMES10 for 10% off your order. They drop new flavors every Sunday, so these are the newer flavors that they just dropped. So before we wrap up, Skylar, do you have anything else you need to say or mention on this podcast?
No, I think we covered everything for now. I'm just looking forward to next Monday.
Yeah, for sure. And before I go, I always have my draft names that I mentioned. I don't have the list available to me from what I've provided before, but I can provide two new names that I'm pretty sure I have not mentioned before to this podcast. So first off, a name that I definitely would like to see in Jacksonville next year is Edge out of Penn State, who we talked about the team today. Abdul Carter, he is an absolute freak. He's got 10 sacks this year. He's got 60 tackles, two forced fumbles, three pass deflections. He has been a baller for Penn State and is a key part of their defense in regards to an improved rating, I guess you'd say, for them. So he's definitely one of their best players. Also, another name, I think I've said Mason Graham before, so I'm going to stay away from that. So I'm going to go with Kenneth Grant, defensive lineman, Michigan. I think he's a big boy, 6'3", 339. Not as big as, I'm sorry, he's bigger than Abdul Carter, good 80 pounds heavier. So he's definitely going to be a D lineman, like a D tackle probably, but I think we definitely need that to address the holes we have on the defensive line that we have currently because Eric Armstead can
Mm.
go out of Jacksonville after this year for all I care. So just a few names I want to throw out there because I missed last week and obviously this week we have an episode. So other than that, I hope everyone enjoys their Pop Tarts because Miami's going to have a whole bunch of them coming up in a few weeks. So
I guess shout out to the Gators too to making Gasparilla
yes, they made the Gasparilla Bowl, so
at Tulane.
it's in
That'll be
Tampa.
yeah.
So, Gator fans, if you want to go support your Gators, go ahead and go to Tampa, cheer them on. Florida State is too busy working the transfer portal and recruiting because God knows they need it.
Gotta get a jump on everyone else. Good game
Exactly.
plan.
Exactly. So, with that, thank you everyone for listening for another episode of Dimes on Duval. This is Mike Yaji signing off, Skylar Chase signing off as well. See you next
See ya.
time.